Welcome back, College Baseball Central fans. We're starting up a new podcast here called Best Coast Pod. As you can guess, it is here on the West Coast, where we're going to talk about all baseball teams here on the West Coast. Pretty much everything that we have that's, west of Texas out here, we're going to be discussing today. I'm joined today with Pat Moen, who's on the West Coast with me. How are you doing, Pat?
Doing well, happy to be here. Scratch at the bit to get the season started, and there's no better warm up than doing a little pot out the West Coast out here.
Absolutely. And we're starting this here on the eve of baseball. We're getting ready. I mean, 9 a.m., there's baseball games for us to start watching. I cannot wait. I am so excited for this season. I know all of us at College Baseball Central have been really excited about this season. We have our top 25 poll that we do every single year. We do it every single week in the season. We do a preseason poll. So we have our preseason poll out right now. It's a composite, right? So there's a lot of us writers that composite to this. It's like 21 of us now that can complete with this poll. Every single week we do top 25. We're going to talk about all the teams on the West Coast that made our poll this year. So the preseason poll, we're going to start off with number 23. We had UCSB, Santa Barbara. They're a very good team put together with a lot of pitching. This team's going to surprise a lot out here. They're going to be competing for a regional. When you look at this team, Pat, you're pretty excited about them at 23, right?
I love them at 23. If I was a betting man and their odds were 23rd best, I'd be all over it as well. I think it's going to be kind of fascinating to see what the staff can do in the Big West, just because that it's such a you've got pitchers one probably fine starting most games and coming out of the bullpen. They're highly ranked entry, not just on the West Coast, not just in their conference. They're garnering true and earned All-American awards this preseason.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about them here in a little bit, but they've got some All Americans in that staff, and that is very exciting if you are a fan of West Coast baseball. Number 19, Stanford. I personally did not have Stanford ranked. I do not know if you had them ranked, Pat. I think that they are quite a bit further down this year, but there's a lot of national media that goes into this top 25 that we do, and a lot of them still see Stanford up there because David Esker is that good. Pat, where'd you have the Stanford team?
I did have them ranked, and I think I had them ranked a little bit higher than 19th, so I might have booed them up a little bit in our rankings. Part of that is, even though me out here on the West Coast is the coach, the name that comes with it, they get there for a reason, and they just made waves yesterday and the big prospect out of Japan, so that program's not going away anytime soon, I believe. Uh,
Yeah, and even if they don't have the kind of season that they've been having the last 3 years, which would be ridiculous if they made it to Omaha 4 years in a row, they're reloading. This team is going to be good eventually. I don't know if it is this year. I feel like this is a full rebuild year for them, but they have a lot of talent still. They're not, they don't have the names that they had last year in the lineup, but they have some arms. It'll be interesting to see. And then our last team on the West Coast, West Coast didn't get a ton of love in our top 25 poll to start this year. Number 7, Oregon State. Now I had them at 4. I know Pat had them higher as well. We're excited for this Oregon State team. I don't think anybody out here on the West Coast could be anything but excited for this Oregon State team. Pat, how did you have this Oregon State team ranked?
yeah, I think I had them slotting at five behind Wake Forest and three SEC teams. I could probably put together an hour-long podcast on Oregon State lineup, just kind of contemplating with fans up to this week on what this nine is going to look like. It's been enough fuss. Not usually you get a top, or at least the starting nine kind of nailed down, but it's really tough to do that with squad depth that they have this year.
Yeah, and there's so much like we've talked about in the past on the Pac-12 preview show. They got 16 guys that could really play in that lineup right now. Their depth is there. The pitching staff took a hit with Aiden Jimenez going down. We're wishing for a speedy recovery for him. But the rest of the staff, they got a lot of guys' experience coming back from last year. Guys even coming in as freshmen. Leif Palmer might get a chance later in the season. Eric Segura is up there throwing 95 miles an hour as a freshman. They're going to have some guys that are going to step up and be really good, and transfers in like Mike Scott. They got some guys, right? This team's going to be very good. We're excited for this team. But let's talk about some teams that aren't in the pack first here. So there's some college baseball. It's everywhere, right? One of our favorite teams that we're really excited to cover this year, that both of us feel could be ranked at some point in this season, if not early. The University of Portland Pilots. They take on San Diego State opening weekend down there in San Diego. It's going to be awesome. Portland Pilots return a lot of talent this year. Pat, I know you're really excited about this team. What do you say on them?
I am super high on this Portland Pilots team. I'm the lone member of the CBC team that had them ranked in the top 25, and I wear it on my chest. I've pinned the tweet to my profile declaring that they will, for their little streak they've got of not making the tournament, and that they get back this year with winning that conference. Uh, you kind of hit it on the head with all the returning production that they have, especially on the offensive side of the ball. 7 guys coming back from that roster that all hit over 300 and qualify that stat to register. And then they add the biggest bats. He's the winning Division III National Player of the Year out of Lewis and Clark, Jack Thompson. I discussed this with you, Mark, a little bit before. Watching him last year in a couple of those games, he walk up to the place, knew he was going to not an extra base hit. You knew it was going to go over the fence. He's a guy interesting to see how that tracks from that Division III level up to Division. Thing that held them back last year was pitching staff. They were bad. That's a deep staff or deep in the West Coast Conference with a lot of arms, and they made it to the championship game and fell a little bit short to Santa Clara. But you add a guy like Nick Brink, their Friday guy, stirs in Oregon State transfer. Never really saw a lot of action down in Corvallis. I think it's an opportunity for him to really showcase what got to that level earlier in his career. And Joey Gardel, a returning starter from last year. This is a team that if you take those guys starting, getting deep into games, you add this offense, Nick Brick, Jake Holcroft, Zach Tolia, Evan Scavato, all made the preseason West Coast Conference team, and you add on a catcher, a true sophomore, Tyler Howard, who didn't really get a lot of playing time over the years, started to emerge late in the season, and was a really pivotal bat for the Islands. It's those guys and more for the Portland team. Going to be a lot this season. I'm excited to be down there. They'll have an early season test with Maryland, but I'm excited to see them get after the San Diego team this weekend and really kind of case what skills.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that Maryland series. Shout out to Matt Swope. Coach Maryland follows me, so I'm pretty excited to go down there and get a chance to see both of those teams. I am uber excited for this Portland team. I think that there's going to be some fireworks this year with that Portland Pilots team. Coach Loomis is terrific. He's done a great job recruiting and getting this team to be where they need. This feels like the season, if you're a Portland Pilots fan, where they're going to really take off. This is a Portland Pilot team with a lot of experience and a lot of arm talent that they haven't had in years past. Sam Sir could be a guy that could really make a difference for this team. They could have 12 all pack or all WCC team guys that by the end of the season. That's how good this team is. When you're talking about depth, they're right there with some of the best on the West Coast. So we're really excited for them. We're going to move on to another WCC team that is maybe a step behind this year, but they're opening with Texas this year. San Diego. It's tough, right? So they're missing a lot of the arms that they had in the last 2 years, but they were really making those runs deep. This team feels a little bit different. They were a little bit of a letdown last year in the postseason, and now you're talking about a team that's in almost full rebuild mode, and they're going to go play Texas, a team that has a lot to prove. When you look at this opening weekend series, I mean, it's got to be kind of all Texas, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a bleak look for Seago, and you kind of hit it. There's just not a lot of production. They're going to heavily on guys like Andrew Peraza and Jack Gersh, their two preseason West Coast Conference picks. But at the end of the day, heading into Austin today, a top 10 team that we have ranked in the Longhorns. I don't think this is going to necessarily an uber down year. I think they can compete really well within the heart of those conference. But I think that they'll find some trouble against an opponent in the ranks and with like the University of Texas.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily mean down for overall, but right, this year's a little bit less than the last 2 years have been. This team's not that team that has been there in the West Coast the last 2 years. It's a little bit further down, but not I mean, they're still good. They still have a lot of talent there.
Right.
We're still excited to
Right.
watch them. Let's move on. UCSB, Campbell. This is my series of the weekend. I was talking to a lot of people this week about this game, and I was like, this series means a lot. This is two non-Power 5 conference teams that have to go out and win these games, and UCSB going on the road at Campbell to play the Humps. I'm excited for this one. I know you're excited. We talked about this pitching staff. They're going to throw out a first-team All-American, Matt Ager, there to start that first game. That's tomorrow, man. We get to watch this tomorrow. How excited are you for this one, Pat?
I have this written very per sentences as this is my favorite matchups of country for opening weekend, and just something that makes baseball so special. In any other sport, the collegiate ranks, bar maybe softball, you see these two match up and you know twice about it. But these are teams that very easily play their way deep into May. They could play in June. They could be stand some of the 8 here. UCSB slate kind of took place in the coach's preseason poll for the Big West. You hit on Matt Ager. Hudson Barrett is another dynamite arm that's kind of the bullpen for them. It's going to be a real fun matchup to see that pitching staff against this Campbell offense that has been on an uptick the last couple years and has been putting them right in the thick of the postseason.
Yeah, and it's not just all pitching staff for Andrew Chicketts and this Gauchos team, but it's a lot pitching staff, and they have a lot of good guys. And you mentioned Hudson Barrett, also an All-American guy, a closer. This team is just loaded and ready for the season. I cannot wait to watch this UCSB team. I will be at the U of O series. I will be at that Sunday game that they are coming up to play Oregon. I think that is going to be just a terrific spot of two teams really battling for what we're talking about is hosting. They're both going for a regional host, which is very exciting if you happen to really get into this. So we're going to move on to another team that has a lot of offense returning. Now, the pitching staff is less known, but this UC Irvine team is taking on North Dakota State University. North Dakota State University is playing a lot of West Coast teams here to start the year off, and it's not necessarily a friendly confines when they're going to start with UC Irvine, and they're going to play Oregon State later in the year. When you look at this UC Irvine team, a lot of offense, a lot of explosiveness, a lot of speed. This feels like some of those Irvine teams that made deep runs, correct?
Yeah, one of my favorite stats that I found while researching some of these teams, and they'd be the only team in the country that they can say this, but every single one of their at bats from last year is returning this current season. Add on Woody Hadeen, who was out the entire year last year with an injury. This offense can click. Woody Hadeen, Joey Yama, Anthony Martinez has used a couple All-American nods around second team, third team, and then talk around Caden Kendall being a potential player of the year. This UC Irvine, it's going to be a little fun to watch them this season when they're going to run a UCSB pitching staff, and you're going to have a strength within the conference. And I think that matchup there will a lot to see what the season with who's going to host. I think winning the big there. But I think that is favorable draw with North Dakota State. Get your light dip, get the season away, get everything caught up in game speed, and they'll quite a bit farther from.
Yeah, and I've been on the record as saying whoever wins that series between UC Irvine and UCSB will probably be the team that hosts, and I believe one of those teams does get to host a regional this year because they're always looking for more teams out west to host, and with some of the Pac-12 teams taking a step back, they're on the far west side here. I think that one of those two teams is going to host, and especially if UCSB can take care of business against Campbell and take care of business against Oregon, they're going to put themselves in that conversation where they need to be at the end of the season to be allowed to host. And I think that they're there. It's great. The Gaucho Ballpark also is terrific. I think it's a great hosting site. So I'm excited for all four of these teams to be playing opening weekend. I think we're very excited to see University of Portland, especially the Pilots, take on San Diego State. I think that's probably our number one, but UCSB and Campbell is the number one overall for the nation. We're going to move on to the Pac-12 teams now. We're going to start with Washington State. They got a series with Utah Tech. Washington State has a lot to prove, right? They have a lot of missing pieces. They're just trying to hang on and be a part of this conference for the last year here. I don't see a lot of things coming. I know that they've transferred in some guys. Grant Taylor probably going on Friday night, though. That could be their chance there to really see their stud go. I know that they've brought over some guys like Joey Kramer and Eli Kennel, but it's really a lot of JUCO and transfers. And this is not a Washington State built from home team, right, Pat?
No, I've got it written down here that should probably be the most excited about just getting out of Pullman and getting down to
Yeah.
take on Utah Tech. I love Pullman. I love Cougs, the Pac-2 brethren, but this is just one of those where it's going to be a tricky year for the Cougars and Pullman. Eli Kennel, I'm excited to see what he can do. Never really got to show what he has at Oregon State. Only played in games. And like you mentioned with Grant Taylor, he's experienced arm. I also expect him to on day, and it'll be interesting if they can get to their bullpen because they have a nice piece out there with Cholo, but it's gonna you get to him with a large enough lead, you don't have to use him 3 times again. It's really that won't work, especially in a conference like the Pac-12 and maybe not a weekend against Tech.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? So they've got to go out and win these series if they want to put themselves in a position to compete here. I don't see this Washington State team really competing this year. I think this is a full rebuild mode here. But this team is still going to be, a Pac-12 team. They're still going to have some talent out there. They're still running some guys, and I really do like Grant Taylor. I was almost surprised that he didn't transfer somewhere and play his senior year somewhere and be a stud. But I'm excited for that guy. I'm excited for Grant Taylor. But other than that, not a lot to love, but I do want to see Eli Kindle succeed. I think that he just kind of ran himself out of space there at Oregon State with how much talent they brought in, and there just wasn't any room in the infield for him. So he's going to get an opportunity up there. Pretty excited about that. Moving on to Utah. Now, Utah plays Cal Baptist, Pepperdine, and Cal Baptist. Kind of some California teams kind of getting going there. This Utah team has some talent. I really like TJ Clarkson. He's a guy who hit, 301, 14 home runs. He also pitched in 7 games last year, 5 as a starter. He's kind of like that mix-up guy. He kind of reminds me of an old like Dylan Davis from Oregon State, where he's going to get throw those midweek games a little bit, but he's also going to play great outfield and hit some bombs. Kai Roberts also on that team. There's a lot of guys returning to this team. There's a lot to like about them, but the pitching side is the one that's tough, and we're going to have to see better from the pitching side, right, Pat?
Yeah, the pitching's going to be the one to prove. Not that this team, I would say too poorly about it, but they were kind of in my cellar last year, Pac-12 power things, and I do see them jumping a little bit, but they missed some pretty big offensive pieces. Jaden McKiernan's lead, who batted over 400 this year. He was a 3-2 hitter there in his career. Theo Clark's, Ty Roberts, the names I have. I like Mike Ashman out of the bullpen, but there's so many question marks on this starting rotation. Who's going to step? Can they step up reliably for long enough to stay competitive in the Pac-12 conference with the top heavy kind of conference that the Pac-12 have this year, where some teams kind of step out for this? I don't get quite coming all together for the Utes this year, but a positive building year for them as they hope get some momentum building there, because they're going to go to a tricky conference the years forward moving involved.
Yeah, and one guy I do want to mention that is transferring in, Michael Stanford. He's 6'5", 220-pound lefty, transferred in from College of the Desert. He had a great ERA for 2 years there, and he got a lot of starts, a lot of opportunities. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do for them. And then Bryson Van Sickle, of course, like we talked about, that guy, he's good. He's going to have an ability. Now, I just don't know if it's enough for this team to really take off and be studs in this conference. I just don't see it. But we're going to have lots of baseball here to talk about it. So we're going to move on to our next team. California is playing in the MLB desert. They got K-State, Georgetown, and Boston College. So two teams that are really on our radar. Kansas State is ranked. Georgetown not necessarily on our radar, but they're getting some good opportunities down there. I like this Cal team. I think that they're going to surprise a lot of people this year. Caleb Lomavita, 316, 16 home runs. Rodney Green Jr. is going to have the breakout season in the Pac-12. This guy is going to be a stud. And then, Peyton Schultz coming off trying to build back from what he had. We're going to have to see if these guys can really do more. Now, they have a lot of returning from the pitching side there, and Christian Becerra, Connor Sullivan, and they're just going to have to see lefty Ian May getting out there too. These guys have a lot of returning, but, they weren't great last year, Pat.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that they're potential nice people, because that is kind of what I did down, which is just what I have in the Pac-12 show. I didn't quite have that feeling that they could put this together, but looking at the art turning, the guys you mentioned, the guys I had written, none of those names came up. They're projected Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend. Ray Newman is a true out of our backyard here in North Medford, 6 guy, 0.9 ERA in high school last. He's going to be going on Friday night. Luke, a transfer out of St. Edwards, he put together 12 last year and in a 3 ERA, and then there's Galano getting the staff as well. But like you said, I think K-State here is a big measuring stick. I think we're going to kind of see what this program can and do in a game against K-State. I wish this was a 4-gamer or a 3-gamer against K-State, so we could really get a little bit more watch on, because as the under the Hoyas, maybe not the toughest competition out there. But Caleb Lomavita, Rodney Green Jr., both Golden Spikes preseason watch list guys. I was low on this Golden Bears team, but they're starting to grow on me day by day.
Yeah, and I think that they're just going to get better throughout this season too as they kind of build together. And I think that the Rodney Green Jr. and Loma Vita really just push this team to be great this year. K State has one of the best closers in the country, Tyson Neighbors, and if you get a chance to watch him in this game, now Cal might take a big lead here. Well, early we'll have to see, but I really like this K State team. So Kansas State in there, that one's going to be fun. Moving on to our next one, we got Washington at Long Beach State. This is another one I was looking forward to. Washington returning some hitters. Uh, Long Beach State is going to have some missing pieces that they're really going to have to build off of. But AJ Guerrero returns as leading hitter for Cam Clayton comes back. Jeter Wybera. They have some guys. And I've heard from camp Carson Olin has really done great things. Now, whether he's going to get a chance to catch or DH or what he gets his opportunities, I hope that we get to see him in game one. I don't know if we're going to. Pat, I know you've got lots about this Washington team that we both had kind of on the bubble of being good to okay this year.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just that kind of being swayed from them ever exploding to their expectations last year or what it is, but I like what this team's got. He's got there up there. Jared Engman's gonna get the ball to start tomorrow night, Friday night against Long Beach, and kind of set the tone for that series against a team that's put back 17 win campaigns within the conference. Both teams are looking to kind of break through another step. So it'll be head on head here. Both teams get a hot start. Josh Emmanuel's acting in that bullpen real strong. I think kind of similar to Utah. You can get to him with them, and you feel pretty good about where you're at. Ava Arquette is a true sophomore that I have written down. He's kind of jumping all edge prospects boards late here. He's got years to put it together before he off to the draft. It'll be interesting to see what if he can be the catalyst in that Washington offense. And then you got guys Campton, AJ Guerrero, both preseason black selections. That'll be strong opponents of this Washington roster. That's going to be sink or swim.
Yeah, and a lot of guys are going to get chances early. So this is going to be an opportunity for these guys to really step up and say, "Hey, I deserve a spot out on this roster. I deserve to be out there with my brothers out there as the 9 guys playing right now." It's going to be some opportunities for some young guys. I really think that Olin could be one of those guys, but they're going to have to give him some opportunities. He's a natural catcher, but he might see some time all over the place. They might just try to get him in the lineup. He might be all over the place, but I'm excited. They're a good team. They feel like they could be on the rise, but a lot of it's going to depend on if these young guys can be good and if they can get outs with the staff. Arizona, Northeastern. This is on our pick 'em for College Baseball Central for the weekend rotation because this game, people don't understand how good Northeastern is. That's a very good program. They have Mike Sirota, who is on the Golden Spikes list. He might be one. He might be one of the favorites to win the Golden Spikes there at Northeastern. They're coming down. They're going to play Arizona. Arizona feels like a team that's on the downward slope right now. They lost so much MLB talent last year. I don't really see where they're going to get a ton of offensive production. I know Emilio Corona is going to be coming back. He's a 330 hitter. Mason White, Tommy Splain. But man, why don't you just try to explain to me how this Arizona team can actually compete with this Northeastern team this weekend?
I got this one written down. This is all numbers weekend series. This is when it kind of how you noted Northeastern can get over quite a bit here, but this is a team that should be turning heads. And Arizona's not the name. They've got kind of the history behind them. That this is a really intriguing series. Like you mentioned, a lot of guys to the MLB is going to kind of come in and pick up some of the slack. Someone that's flown a little bit under the radar and only became apparent to me through their preseason spring scrimmages and stuff is a true freshman Eastern Brave slash absolutely ridiculous numbers, .46 batting average. Continue to take that into this and against Northeastern and get it bats put together. They're pretty like that. The Wildcats are going to be looking at a pretty decent team here within the Pac-12. Really interesting. They've got this pitching staff up. They've looking at their first starters here. Their Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Jackson Kent only got 4 starts last year, and none of them are really pretty. And they put him out on the Friday night. Clark Candioti at Wichita State. He pitched well for Wichita State. We'll see if kind of transferred to a higher level baseball in the Pac-12 or against the team with the caliber and the potential of Northeastern. And then they put their guy. To me, I'm the most familiar with the guy that kind of has the name that I know he's the most experienced arm. I would say Anthony Susak. So it's almost like they're pitching backwards. You hear people talk about pitching backwards within an at bats, with starting with the off-speed stuff and ramping up to your fastballs as the put-out pitch. That kind of feels like that's what they're doing with the staff, and they're just going to try and outslug some of these teams and outlast them into.
Yeah, Tonko Susak getting that start there as the Sunday starter is going to be really impressive. Cam Walty, Brandon Sastros coming off lackluster arms last year, but these guys, they say, have done really good in fall camp. we're gonna have to see. I love Clark Candiotti, by the way. I think that him coming out of Wichita State is a big arm for them. He was part of that Wichita State exodus that just shocked everybody when they lost like 20 of their players overnight. But he's really good. I think that he gives them a chance, right? And I think the pitching backwards might be the key for them in the Pac-12 this year because the Friday night starters are so good across the Pac-12 this year that maybe they're trying to play backwards. And I don't hate it, trying to get wins, being smart about it, going out there and get the wins when you can. So we'll see what happens here. Maybe they just really do believe that Jackson Kent can be that guy and really lead this team. So Arizona State, Santa Clara, again, another series that I absolutely love. There's just so many opening weekend. I don't know if it's just because I'm so excited about opening weekend baseball or if these are just really good series. Brian Campos is a stud, and there's no way around it. He's going to be going up for Pac 12 Player of the Year. There's just so much you have to like about this guy, both offensively, defensively. He was hurt last year and missed the Oregon State series and missed a few games. 388, 8 home runs. He will be much better than that. Jacob Tobias, 317, 10 home runs. New Contreras, he was my pick for freshman of the year. Last year, he hit over 300, he hit 8 home runs. Could slide away from third, but he's most likely going to stay at third. They just have a lot. And then they have all these freshman arms. They have 5 freshman arms that they're bringing in that they might start. And transfer Connor Markle from Grand Canyon. He had 20 plus starts at Grand Canyon. He's going to come over there and try to give them some experience. I really like this Arizona State team, especially in this weekend against Santa Clara.
It's gonna be such a fun series to watch. I think take the over. If anything, I think this is gonna be a series just
Yeah.
riddled with odds. Even there are some names. I'm very high on Connor Markle. It'll be interesting to see what we get out of Tyler Meyer, a guy who missed all of the 23 campaign, currently penciled in to actually go on Sunday against Santa Clara. But another really intriguing freshman, similar to what Cal has going. They're going to put out a true freshman tonight. Thomas Burns is a huge guy for Arizona State. Put up a .88 ERA. He had a sub .9 WHIP in his year in high school. But this is the series that I'll be tuned into this week. I think the most, just because the Santa Clara team won the WCC tournament last year, made it to the postseason, versus Arizona State team probably should have been in the postseason last year. There's an argument to be made.
Should have been.
And I think that both teams are going to try and start their campaigns with season-defining series wins. It's a big one right here, right out of the gate. Question marks will be answered early on for these teams, and I'm really going to get into it.
I am so pumped for Thomas Burns, 6'3", big kid. I cannot wait to see what he does. He might be the arm that Arizona State has been waiting for to really grind with this team. Another guy I'm keeping my eye on too is Jonah Giblin. He's got a chance. He's got a lefty. He's a little upper 80s. He's kind of a mix in there. I think he'd be a good guy to throw in there for those long reliefs and get some innings. But we're gonna have to wait and see what happens there for this guy because the sky is the limit for this Arizona State team. I really do believe in them a lot this year. Willie Bloomquist has done just a terrific job of bringing in talent and really having some guys there on the roster that are going to make this team shine. Arizona State is skyrocketing in my polls, as well as another team that I had ranked that we do not have ranked as a collective, USC. They're playing in the MLB Desert Series again. They're playing BYU, Grand Canyon, Ohio State. Teams that don't necessarily jump off the paper for you, like Grand Canyon years past has been good, but now he's at USC, their head coach, Stegowitz there, and BYU and Ohio State really not jumping off the page there. So this is really a time where they got to take advantage. I really like what they've done. Austin Overn, not getting enough love in my opinion, but this guy could be a Golden Spikes Award finalist. Luca DiPaolo, great. He's been great in their fall series here. Jacob Galloway, also another catcher who's been good last year. They got some guys there, but really when you look at this team, Caden Aoki is a stud. Tyler Stronsberg is a stud. Deuce Robinson out of the pen last year. This team is built on pitching and defense, and now they've got enough offense. Sky is the limit for this USC team. I am very excited for the star-studded team. How do you feel on this one? Opening weekend, kind of a soft roster though, right?
I've got this. This is I think they have the weakest opening weekend schedule. There's maybe some. They're the Pac-12, at least not that we've talked about today. There's probably some people you could argue with. But yeah, none of these really jump off the page to you. Maybe if you were talking about a different sport, but not quite on the diamond. Caden Aoki, he is going to start his 2024 campaign with a huge performance against BYU, assuming he's going to go Friday night. I don't really know. Maybe you save him for Grand Canyon, but I don't think there's a need to save any of your arms against any of these teams this weekend. Throw those guys. I think Stankiewicz has this program on the rise. this team and see it going on the more some love. Oxford being subbed off the Golden Spikes Award watch list was blew my mind. I was losing it when I didn't see him on there. Guys like Jimmy Galloway, this is going to be a big season for USC if they can put it all together. Tyler Stromsberg, I'm assuming Saturday. Look, Eric Hammond is going to get odd for the day start. So once you get all these guys there, you can get them going. If they just get a couple to start to click a little bit more, it's a really dangerous USC Trojans team. They just trotted out some brand new heads that I think might be top of the line for Pac-12.
Yeah, and there's not much of a better 1-2 punch maybe on the West Coast other than UCSB with that Aoki and Stromsburg going Friday and Saturday. That's tough, and they got the defense to back it up too this year. And I really like what they have coming out of the bullpen with Deuce scores. They're good. This is a very 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 good team with Deuce Robinson coming out of that bullpen too to shut teams down. I'm excited to see what they do. They still got to prove it to me, but Stankiewicz does have this team on the rise. Another team last year who was really, really hot at the end of the season. We're looking to see start off maybe a little hotter than they did last year. Wazowski's Oregon Ducks. They started in the Shriners this year. Oklahoma, Baylor, Texas Tech. Baylor, I feel like, is not that much of a threat. Oklahoma is not that much of a threat this year. Texas Tech is going to be really good. They could be an Omaha team. So there's a really good challenge here early, and we know that Isaac Aon now is out for them, the Ducks again. Unfortunately, sounds like he's not going to be making any more this season either. When you look at this team, though, there's a lot to like. You got to be pretty excited, right, Pat?
Yeah, this is a fun program to kind of cover, especially the last couple of years since Wazowski taken over, where the offense really started to blossom. Jacob Walsh, he's only 10 big swings away from breaking their record for career home runs. I think can all agree that that's something that will happen. Especially it'll be a lot of fun watching him start at the Emmy ballpark and see what he can do, especially with no bats down there. But kind of on the picture with you losing it for the year, you've got guys that have experience, and so Mercado. And you've got a bunch of guys that all kind of split a bunch of starts last year. Jackson Pace had 11, Matthew Grabban 10, and Leo Human had 10 as well. It'd be, I think, a little bit of kind of matching pieces and doing a little bit of a game of chess early on in the year to see who would be the guy that you want to roll with, which is tricky because it's tough sledding right out of the gate. You mentioned it, Texas Tech. You got UCSB. They don't have a time to kind of chip and get things ready on the pitching. They're kind of be thrown a switch. A good thing, it gets you up for a trip to the year. But this will be a fun team to watch. I think I've got enough that I should be able to make off in Corvallis when it comes here. Those are we can't miss in my book.
Yeah, there's going to be just some must-watch baseball there at Oregon. I am very high on this Oregon Duck team. I have them just outside my Omaha 8 now with the loss of Isaac Aon, but I think RJ Gordon coming back this year is a huge step forward for them. I think that he's going to be a dude for them. Logan Mercado, like you already touched on. And then you talked about Jacob Walsh. He's a guy at first base. They've got another guy who's pushing him for playing time is Dominic Hellman. He's a true freshman. This guy has crushed the ball in fall ball. And then they got transfers Justin Casella and Jeffrey Hurd who are going to play outfield out there. I'm very excited for this team. Bennett Thompson returns back behind the dish. Drew Smith again at third. This team is going to be good. I just want to see how good they can be. And with this pitching staff, it's going to be very interesting to see what this team comes about. But I think that there's a lot to like about this team. And I really believe that this Oregon Duck team could be one of those special teams this year. And I think that there's going to be some great games here on the Pac-12. I can't wait to go see some games there at PK Park. I know I'm going to be at Goss a lot. And I'm going to try to go to as many games up for the Portland Pilots as I can this season. We're going to be all over the place. CBC travels well. Pat and I are very excited for this season. But we're going to move on to another team, UCLA Gonzaga. This one for me, Pat, was the weaker slate of games versus what USC was, because Gonzaga has really taken a huge step back in the last 2 years. 2 years ago, this is a team we were talking about that could have been a 2 seed in the tournament, and now you really don't look at them as really competing even for their own conference. But I like UCLA. I think that UCLA is really taking a step forward after last year's really debacle of injuries. They got some guys returning. Michael Barnett, likely the Friday night guy. Finn McElroy, Cody DeVecchio, Luke Jugett. They have guys, right? All these guys could be weekend rotation guys, but they're going to have to show me something. Pat, what do you think about this UCLA team?
Yeah, it's a young team for how talented they are. two guys I think that could be rotation guys like Jewett and Finn McElroy both be their first career starts whenever they got out and start their first. Michael Barnett is another guy I could see make that spot in rotation. And then I'd be remiss to never watch Chalowski when discussing true freshmen and young talent on the UCLA baseball team. He might be worth tuning. And then you add other guys and other components of offense, such as just John Von Deuce Corson. I was there kind of how you noted with being the weakest, not conference slate. They only won 4 conference games last year, and
Yeah.
I don't know if not even more. It's very talented ball club. So, I expect UCLA to roll this weekend, to be at home playing in front of their fans. But this is going to be a fun team to watch. I think there's so many different teams Pac-12 conference that are going to be loaded to one side of the ball, which is going to be a lot of those head-to-head matchups. Really interesting to watch, and I think UCLA, they have the talent to excel on the team mound. It's just they got to prove it, and they've got to develop some of those guys to be there. And if they can do that, and watch out, this UCLA club can climb the rankings quick, and they will if they can get that pitching staff kind of dialed in and really themselves.
Yeah, they had the number 2 recruiting class. Big reason of that, Roche Chalowski, like we talked about. He is going to be must-watch baseball. Hopefully, he gets the opportunity. Hopefully, he stays away from the injury bug that has happened to all these freshmen the last couple seasons for UCLA. I'm excited for them. Cody Schreier, Deuce Gorston up the middle. Jack Holman led the Bruins in home runs last year. He returns at first. Carson Yates going to be in the outfield. There's a lot to like about this team. They are very young, but this pitching staff could surprise a lot of people. I know a lot of people are talking about how this pitching staff all left to LSU. No, the pitching staff that's going to start is here. They are good. They are here. They're ready to play. I think that this UCLA team is going to surprise some people, and I think Savage is really going to lead this team. They could be the dark horse to really get to Omaha if this team gets right early. Moving to another team that's been in Omaha, and they have made that trip 3 years in a row. I personally don't have them coming again this year, but Stanford Cardinal, they got Cal State Fulton for a 3-game series, and then UNLV on Monday. This is kind of an interesting series to see them play Fullerton here early. I know that they struggled with them last year, and that was kind of a shock to people that Fullerton was really battling with the Stanford team and going extra innings. I'm excited to see the Stanford team. I know that they have a lot of question marks. Big boy Matt Scott is going to be looking to use his power fastball and really be that Friday night guy. Nick Duggan, another guy who was great last year in the postseason. They got to step up though, right? Like they got to be better this year. They have to be more consistent, and now they're missing so many pieces. And even transferred out Braden Montgomery going to Texas A&M really takes away another bat that this team needed this year. Pat, when you look at this team, I know that there's a lot to like about them, but it's a lot of question marks still.
There's a lot of question marks. The losing Murray might be the biggest loss to a roster trend, not quite like to the roster and that sort, especially from a storied program Stanford. But getting to the ACC, I understand you Matt Scott, he's going to be their guy. He need to be their guy. Because behind that, there's not too much. Seemingly, their Saturday guy might be Christian Lim, who's a true pitched real well in the West Coast League last year, or this past summer for the Picks. And then Nick Duggan, who got some starts last year. Can't say about too well though. He posted a 7+ ERA.
Yeah.
But this matchup kind of intrigues me. You've got I think Fullerton team is if anything going to take a step up from where they were last year, and the Stanford team just low question marks. These two played in the Palo Alto Regional. Stanford ended Fulton season. Stanford sent him packing. Or maybe it comes with a little bit of a kind of a chip on their shoulder, a little vengeance, and tries them. These did get moved around, so they're going to play 2 tomorrow. They're going to play 2 on opening to avoid the weather, which I think will make real interest on the start. But it has like Timo Becerra, Saborn, some returning off units are going to step up and be leaders program. You're going to want to make a return trip to Omaha. Honestly, maybe even a return trip season.
Yeah, both Owen Cobb and Timo Becerra both spent time at shortstop last year. They're both going to be second base and third base, respectively, this year. Neither one of them is going to play shortstop. It's going to be interesting to see what this team does. They did bring in one of my favorite transfers, Brandon Larson. He's going to be playing first base. He's a big dude, capturing some of those numbers for the home runs, but they're missing a lot of power from last year. They're down like 78% of their home runs from a year ago, and it's going to be interesting to see what this team can do and if they can really battle back and be what everybody thinks of as Stanford. I have all the faith in the world in Esker. I think he's just a terrific coach, terrific guy. I'm excited to see what he does, but I don't know if this Stanford club deserves to be in the top 25 at this moment. Now, I think it's just because of Esker and the guys that are still there, but I do think that this Stanford team is going to get humbled pretty early this season, and it might be a tough season here as Stanford rebuilds into the next couple years. Moving on to our last team, saving the last for best, right, Pat?
That's
Oregon
it.
State. They're going to Surprise again. This is no surprise. They end up in Surprise every year. Playing New Mexico once, then Minnesota, then Bakersfield, then Minnesota again. Not the toughest slate of opening games. We know New Mexico gave us a little bit of headaches there last year at Oregon State. This is not the same New Mexico team, folks. Don't worry. This team lost a lot of their offensive numbers. That was a very good offensive team last year for New Mexico. Not the same this year. I'm excited because Aiden May is going to start that Friday game. And we know the kind of pitcher he can be. It seems like Dorman has worked with him and made this guy into an absolute Friday night monster for teams. I cannot wait. There's just so many players to talk about, but I'm gonna let you go first here, Pat, and then I'll close it out here with this Oregon State team.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that always like to have Aiden May's statistics from the year prior and point to, whether if it was playing at Arizona's ballpark or even circled on the road a little bit, the difference that coaching can make. And I'll go to war for Rich Dorman, which gets me in trouble with some Beavers Twitter because some people aren't the biggest Rich Dorman guys. I think he's going to rip the ship here with Aiden May. I think he's going to be an absolutely elite Friday night guy. Something that you kind of missed this year. Trent Sellers was excellent, but up against some of the talent in the pack, they started to a little bit. He struggled with command. If Aiden May can go take care of things for Friday, probably Jacob Komatz announced for this Saturday. I think be that going forward. Sunday's still technically a mark. I expect Aaron Hunt, if not him this week, he works his way back into a center role before the season's end. Maybe AJ Hutchison goes. There's a lot that this pitcher could do, even with the loss of Aiden Jimenez. But as good as the pitching staff is, this offense is a whole different animal. And like you said, Mark, New Mexico will be the same offense. I think if they were the same offense, Steelers shouldn't be afraid of anything going to this weekend series at Prize. One of my predictions is going to be on how many runs are scoring this weekend. I'm going to save it for a little bit later just in case we get there. But the lineup top to bottom is absolutely loaded. I think you're going to see guys like Zana. I expect another year out of Mike McDowell. I'd love to see that power kind of continue to build. Brady Casper is a big power bat. Mason Guerra. This line are going to end, and it's almost reminiscent a little bit of that 2018 line, where just guy after guy. They're all protected. There's the bat behind them that can do damn damage. It always can.
Yeah, and there's just so much to like about this Oregon State team. There's stuff being talked about all the offense. So I'm gonna talk about a little bit like guys like Tanner Smith who are so good defensively, and he is good offensively also. This could be a double-digit home run catcher for this team, but he's also so looked at as just a great receiver of the ball behind the dish, great at throwing guys out. They have so much talent though as far as offense and what we're looking at for this team. There are legitimately 15 to 16 guys that could start in this lineup, and I would feel very comfortable with those guys playing every day. There's other schools that would take any of these guys, and I know transferring in guys like Aiden May was huge. Elijah Hayline from Washington State coming down now. He's going to play shortstop. Mason Guerra to me is the glue guy for this year. If he can be the super stud that everybody believes he can be, he was an Oregon player of the year. He's Oregon Gatorade player of the year a couple of years ago. Freshman year, he was, had some struggles, had some really good days. Last year, he really exploded late. Same thing there with Turley. This team has so much offense. I think that this is a plus 100 home run team, and that just doesn't come around every time. This will be the most home runs ever for this team, I believe. 88 was record last year. I think they blow that out of the water. I don't even think it's close this year. I think this team just really takes off. McDowell, Casper, the whole outfield is one of 6 programs in the country that had top 100 outfield with all 3 guys that are projected to start out there. I couldn't be any more excited for this Oregon State team to start this week, and I just see so much of this team that I like. I know you touched on some things. Nelson Keljo, also another guy that I can't wait to see if he's going to get some chances. Kyle Scott transferring in. Tyler Mejia, another guy who had lots of appearances, and big boy Joey Munt returns. So there's just a lot to be excited for if you're a Beaver fan moving into this weekend. Couple things here before we close out, Pat. I'm going to ask you, What is something that you are very excited and hope happens this weekend? I'm not counting you down for a prediction. I'll get that one next. I want to know what you hope happens this weekend.
One of my the open hope is I hope all of these schools playing in California get all their games in. See them all rearranging their rules to get them in. This is kind of like Chris, I need as much of it as I can handle. The ESPN subscription, which working overtime, 12 Network website, it'll work for me this week. It won't. Who's to say? I think one of the most things I'm or hopeful for these series that we pretty competitive with live up type, and that's a lot to ask for. With State Santa Clara series, to me with the UC Campbell series, I think that you work all off, and especially these last few weeks, we're seeing these rosters head to you build up you build up full of expectations, and I just want for them all to live up to that. I don't hoping to stay away from any blowouts here opening week.
Yeah, I would love that too. My hope is that everybody stays healthy with the weather that's coming, right? Because that's the kind of time when you get a little hurt when you're doing these things and the weather comes in and you're not really playing your best conditions. My hope is every team stays healthy and UCSB sweeps Campbell. That's my hope. That's my hope. I'm not going prediction. I'm going hope on that one. I really do hope that UCSB sweeps Campbell. Tell me one thing you're predicting for this weekend and that you are excited for.
So I did keep two predictions just because I know you and I both Ohio State guys. I don't want to just ride with my prediction. We'll go with my Oregon State prediction first, and that'll be that you scored double-digit runs in all four games this week. That is something that they never done. Surprise! They've gotten close times, putting up double digits in three of the games twice. Interestingly enough, in 2001, they put up double digits in two of the games and still got swept. Hopefully double digits on top or wins. But my hope is going to be that from USC, we see KO go out and throw 7 innings of shutout ball against BYU. As much as I want to predict a complete shutout, I don't think any pitcher in the country's more than 7 this weekend. The long treacherous seat ahead of him. I think Yoki goes out and he puts on a show on Friday night and gets that USC ball cleared off on a very, very high note.
My prediction for this weekend is both Arizona State and Cal surprise us and play very good and could sweep both those series. I think Arizona State is that kind of club this year. If Thomas Burns can be the freshman we hope he is, I really do believe that Arizona State can sweep Santa Clara this weekend. And Cal's going to have to compete with K State to start. And I have K State as one of my borderline Omaha teams. But I love this Cal offense, and I think that if they can get going early and not have to face neighbors on that game one, I really do believe this Cal team can win that weekend with Georgetown and BC. I think BC is a little bit further down. I think Georgetown is a beatable team. I do believe that Cal could surprise some people and win this weekend and be one of the darlings of this weekend. All right. So that's everything for us for the first week here. Best Coast Pod. We're going to be back every week. We're going to produce a show for you guys. We're going to get it out there and let you guys know all of our thoughts about these teams and upcoming slates. Obviously, once it gets down into Pac 12 play, we're going to have more of those one on ones and we're going to be able to talk a little bit more into those teams. I'm just so excited for opening weekend. Pat, I know you're excited. I'm going to let you have some final thoughts here before we close out.
So to get going, I was looking at the ESPN guide today, picking what my day is going to look like tomorrow, who's on what screen, who's going to be on the screen with my morning coffee, and who will be on screen work on the sidebar, of course. But the open weekend is one of the best weekends of the year before we get too far into the postseason. The long wait's finally over. We've made it, and I excited statement. I'm just excited to get going and get the season underway with.
Yeah, I'm excited. I got the 75-inch TV on one wall. I got the 60-inch on the other wall. They're both ready to go. I'm going to have 8 games going. I couldn't be more excited for this weekend. Cannot wait to hear from all you fans. Also, you can hit us up here on the podcast. You can hit us up on our Twitter handles. I know Pat and I are both always out there ready to go for that one. We're really excited to be doing this podcast this year. We hope you guys join us. Send us some questions to either one of our Twitter handles, and we'll get to try to answer some of these. If you have other questions you want to ask to the pad, you can also send them out to College Baseball Central, who we both work for. College Baseball Central, we're everywhere, man. We're covering everything. The weekend rotation is going to be every Saturday morning. We're going to do our Saturday morning show. So thanks for having us. Let's just go into college baseball with an open mind and get some exciting games in.
Let's do it.
Pat Moen, myself, Mark Garland, thanks for joining us, guys. We'll be back next week.